Welcome everyone to what I consider to be the dream panel. It's as if we got all of the greats from the NBA. We put them together in one Zoom bubble here today to answer all of our Essbase questions about not just what is currently happening in the world of Essbase, but what that great future looks like. As the panel started coming together, I said I am less and less relevant on this panel because we have much smarter people than me about the future, all from the Oracle side, from different aspects of the Oracle side. So I'm going to turn my camera off and turn it over to our most capable, most awesome moderator, who not only conceived of this idea of this panel, but will be handling this cast of characters for the next 45 minutes. I have known Roger for, God, I don't know, 20 years at this point. And he is right now global director over at Cubics. And he was one of the first people I reached out to personally to say, please do something at my conference when we came up with this idea of resurrecting after 13 years, the Hyperion Solutions Conference. Roger is a wonderful gift to the community. Like me, he believes in learning things and passing it on. And he's always willing to drop what he's doing on a moment's notice and do something like this really, really awesome four-ring circus today. So with that, I'll turn it over to our most capable, most excellent, most bodacious host, Roger Cressey.
All right, thank you, Ed. I don't think I've ever been introduced quite like that before, but thank you, Edward. Appreciate it. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Roger Cressey. I'm a group director of the Cubics group. We're now starting to call ourselves Cubics International, but yeah, marketing does things. And we're in multiple geographies around the world and doing ERP and EPM and BI. But my personal passion is and has been for many years is around Essbase. And I feel very privileged to be on this panel with what I think are some of the greats in our environment right now, both from EPM and BI. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. Just as sort of setting some ground rules, there are none. I do have a few topics that I can throw into the mix, but I kind of wanted this to be a pretty free-flowing discussion. Maybe we could start. By the way, if there are people who have questions, please put them from the audience. Please put them into the Q&A area. Don't put them into the general chat discussion. We'll try and get to those maybe during discussion. Depends on how busy things get. But if I have with me today, I'm just going to very quickly give their name and title, and then we'll go around the table and you can introduce yourselves if you don't mind, gents. So I've got Patrick Wheeler, Vice President, Product Management, Oracle Autonomous Database. Hi, Patrick. Ashish Jain. And Ashish is working hard today. He's literally just come off a panel. So if you were on that, you've now got the perfect questions to ask Ashish during this time. So, but thank you for staying on. I know it's getting on in your evening for you. He's product manager, Oracle. We've got Mike Larimer, Essbase Development, Oracle. Mike doesn't make a lot of appearances, so I am very honored to have you here, sir, and thank you. Much appreciated. He even tried to gently renege, but I managed to persuade him to stay with us today. So thank you for doing that, sir. Ed has got, Edward Roski's got obviously lots on the go. He's already excused himself. I think poor excuse really, because we would have loved to have heard from him, but we'll hear from him later today anyway. I'm sure you'll find a way to chirp about that later. And then Shankar Viswanathan from the EPM side of the fence. Thank you. I know it's quite early for you, and appreciate you joining. So maybe we could start just in the order that I've just said hello. Patrick, if you want to give any more detail about yourself, sir.
Well, thank you, Roger. And I'll start by thanking Edward and Roger, both of you, for hosting us on this. It's a great privilege to be able to join you on this panel. A little about me. I'm an Oracle veteran. I joined Oracle in 1986, but I'm relative Essbase baby compared with the sort of several decades of experience that all of you have in this community. But I've come to this through a sort of somewhat varied path. Most recently at Oracle, I was product manager for Oracle Multi-Tenant, which is the foundation for our autonomous database. And our vision of this space, which our friends at Gartner agree with, is that data management has expanded to take on a whole range of things, including analytics, data integration, and various things. And correspondingly, our organization sees the need to bring all those things together so that our customers can have an integrated experience. So for Essbase, we've got this wonderful community, we've got this wonderful product. We have an opportunity, we believe, to bring the strength of Essbase beyond its traditional market, and we're looking for great things to come. We've got some exciting product development things that we've already been talking about at this conference. We've got an on-premises release coming along, and a lot of good things are happening. So it's great to be able to share some of those with you today. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Ashish, do you want to, I know you've just had this, but if you don't
Hi all. Yeah, just hi. I mean, I think we've spoken in a few minutes back. I have been the product manager for Essbase. Again, I think probably after Patrick, it's me who's a newbie in this community. Really, I mean, people have worked with the product. They're passionate about Essbase. It's really nice when I come over to the US, talk to the people there, and look at the passion that they have for the product. Really kind of drives me to make sure that it's a legacy, and we have to take it forward. So I'm very privileged to be a part of this community and take this product forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, one of the original Arbor Bang. So you'd like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Mike Larimer. I'm starting my 29th year with Essbase this year. I started in 1992. And I started as a solution consultant. My background was in finance. I saw Essbase as a customer and fell in love with it and was asked to join Arbor pre-IPO. And it's been an awesome journey. Met a lot of great, smart people, and Essbase is still the best product out there. So it's quite phenomenal to have a product be around for that long and be so relevant. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Shankar, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everybody. This is Shankar Vishwanath, and I'm from the EPM team here. I remember my solutions conference way back in 2007. That's around the time I quit Oracle to join Hyperion, and I was back safely in Oracle pretty fast soon after that. So, I'm glad that Edward and the team here roll back with solutions. So it's really good memories. So I've been with EPM. I managed the planning on-prem, and then was instrumental in launching PBCS into the cloud in 2014. So have been in MoLab space for a long time. Even before that, I was a part of consulting with TM1 and also with OutlookSoft before those were acquired. So I have the MoLab experience before I came into the Hyperion world. So it's been a great journey because within EPM, we have the same team which we had in on-prem Hyperion planning, launching into the cloud and still managing and still deal with the similar folks, both in the Essbase team, Mike and Matt Millella, Tawfiq, all those guys are still around. We still communicate with each other. So it's great to have the same community and relationship, not just with product management, but within development. So anybody out there in the LinkedIn world or in the social media world saying Essbase is dead is totally wrong. Essbase is just growing and growing, and we are seeing that adoption both in the SaaS and the infrastructure cloud space within EPM also. So look forward to this discussion.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Shankar. So we've just come off 45 minutes of Essbase. So I thought maybe we could maybe start with a sort of a blended question that I could throw out there. And I wondered if you can give us some insight between all of you as to how the relationship, if you like, between the EPM and now database, because obviously Essbase has had a number of homes over the years. It was EPM to to BI to database. But how do you actually coordinate? So, for instance, I know there's all the plans. You know, we've got 11.2 going with Essbase. I know there's some. Again, I'd love to hear some more discussion around how that's going to be allowed to be used. I know there was a little bit of discussion about that previously. But how do EPM and database coordinate what they're doing?
Well, I think
and
maybe
that can be to anybody.
If I take a start of that, I think some of it's easy just by virtue of what we've heard in these introductions. So these are people that know each other personally over many years, many decades. So just the personal relationship just helps the interaction naturally. So I think there's an instinctive rhythm that everyone follows, even without formal communication. So that's just a common bond. From the Essbase side of the house, you know, we get to play. You know, we get to play very neutral. We want Essbase to win everywhere. We want it to win standalone on premises. We want it to win standalone in the cloud. We want it to win embedded in EPM. We want it to win everywhere. And of course, that means we want our customers to be successful with it. So that's our plan. And I think with EPM, Shankar can dive into this a little bit further. But you know, I think going forward, we have a couple of things that we're pursuing in parallel. The immediate thing will be to see what we can do to get Essbase to work with 11.2 of EPM. And the second is when we come out with our next release of Essbase, which will be 21, for EPM to pick that up as soon as possible. So we're working on several fronts in parallel, Roger.
All right, thank you. Shankar, did you have a view on that as well?
I think, yeah, I think it goes back to what Patrick was mentioning. I think if you go to, you know, relationships and even where we are situated, right, even going back to where we were in Santa Clara building, where the Essbase and EPM teams were situated, then we moved to the San Jose office. They're also, these teams are all situated in the same buildings, you know, one floor above. Planning used to be in the building, one floor above the Essbase team. So it was just a matter of walking down the stairs and talking to the dev leads and understanding what problems would be. So relationships matter in solving critical issues. Even today, although the teams are spread out, we still, you know, count on those relationships, and we also have no hesitancy in picking up the phone and talking to each other and solving those problems. So it definitely is a close-knit community within Oracle, between Essbase and the EPM teams.
Yeah. But is there a formal get together? Do you sort of meet monthly and say, right, this is what we want to focus on, or do you just do it on a project basis? How does it work?
It's more on a project basis, at least from the EPM team. And also, you know, we have Slack channels where we can communicate with each other. So we don't really need to, you know, set up time. If we need to, we do that. But yeah, so those are, you know, it's not just from product management, which I belong to, but also within development, dev leads who are, you know, more into the technical areas. They can, you know, they coordinate directly with the dev leads on the Essbase side. If the problems bubble up where, you know, the leads within the development organizations need to be involved, they also know each other from way back when. Essbase, we used to be part of the, you know, OBIE and BI teams, and those leads know each other. So, as I said, there's no need for a formal monthly meeting as such. It's just, you know, ad hoc. People can set up meetings as they need to.
Yeah, I would say from the Essbase side, you know, Essbase is used in a lot of different products, Fusion, EPM, we have our own cloud. So on our side, from a dev perspective, we have release managers that manage those relationships and manage the bugs and the enhancement requests. And like SmartView, you know, that team's located near us, and we do have regular updates with them. It really depends on, you know, what the teams want to do. But definitely from an Essbase side, we manage each customer, whether it's internal, you know, with a dedicated release manager that coordinates.
Very good. So I guess one of the things that occurred to me, and it has been a question Edward and I have mentioned this before, is, for instance, a decision to release 11.2 on Windows first, as opposed to the Essbase cloud and the Essbase on customer 21C version going out on Linux first, something like that. How would that decision be arrived at? What was the thinking behind that? Anybody?
I think I can take the 11.2, and maybe Mike and Ashish can, or Patrick can jump in on the Essbase side. But basically 11.2 was a decision more on the EPM customers who are on 11.124 are running out of support at end of this 2021. So that was a decision needed to be taken because of the broad portfolio of customers we have within EPM across HFM, planning, and everything in on-prem which we have, right? More than 5,000 plus customers. So a lot of them are on 11.124, and they needed a migration path because they are, and a lot of customers are on Windows, and we also, Windows is faster for us to certify, and there's a lot more variations with Linux, and so those things influence the decisions on which goes first, and I think hopefully that answers. I don't know if Mike or Ashish want to chime in.
Yeah, sure. I mean, from an Essbase perspective, I think the timing of it all was slightly challenging, in the sense that I think late 2018, early 2019. We sort of moved away from the analytics group and moved into the database fold. That's when we moved into the database fold, and we got the news that these OCI classic data centers are going away. So we had to provide our cloud customers a solution so that they could quickly move off of, because there was no sort of not a lot of runway available for them. So we were focused on getting into the new fold in the database group, and number two is getting this marketplace release out. We've always been saying that we want to come out with an on-prem release, and as we moved into the database fold, we took some strategic decisions in terms of what we are going to do for our cloud customers, what are we going to do for our EPM customers. So cloud took precedence. So we delivered marketplace, which was key for our customers, at least the cloud customers. And then now our focus completely shifted. All our focus is on 21C release, as Shankar mentioned, right? There's not a lot of runway available for our Linux customers, right? Linux took priority over Windows because Linux 6 sort of end of this year, right? So the focus for Essbase has been to get Essbase 21C on Linux out, and then of course very soon followed by Windows. So it's a matter of timing in the sense how we had to shift groups, make some strategic decisions, and then move on.
Oh, thank you. All right, so I guess one of the other things that is often a question that I get from my customers and from colleagues is we now have, if you look at the suite of reporting products that we have with EPM and EPM Dashboard 2.0, which is superb, by the way, a big advance on some of the on the previous dashboarding capability. I've been privileged to be part of some of the previews of that with Mark Rinaldi and his team. But on the other side, we've got BI developing at a clip with our OAC offering, OAC without Essbase, which is, again, we've had to get used to this nomenclature. How should we be recommending that our customers handle their reporting across these various platforms?
Mike, Ashish, I can take that if you want. So I think I covered that in yesterday's session, which we had the platform session on the EPM update. So I had one slide. I typically show that slide because this question comes up quite often. And the delineation is pretty clear to us within EPM, and also I think talking to Essbase team, that's also clear. It's essentially BI tools. OSC is essentially the BI overlay, right? So you can have any source of data, whether coming from EPM or Essbase or any ERP or outside of Oracle. So the BI roadmap is based on that that foundation. From EPM standpoint, essentially, the dashboards don't really compare because we have dashboards, we have FR, which migrates into an MR going forward, and then we have the narrative reporting. So those, if you think about it, read, write, calculate, right? Those are dashboard specific functions. You don't do calculation, you don't do write backs in OSC. Those are more read functions. Now coming to read functions, you essentially compare FR against OSC. FR is more for printing, batch bursting, distribution. So you have consumers of information who are more report friendly in the sense they want the distribution mechanism and stay within EPM. Basically, that user base is primarily EPM. Then it becomes an FR/MR conversation. If you want to extend to statutory regulatory reporting and more approval-based reporting, then narrative reporting comes into play. And OSC, from our standpoint, is where EPM is just another source of the data. Your other sources of data may be coming from Essbase or coming from ERP or from outside of Oracle. Then OSC comes into play because EPM at that point is just another source of data, which we want to commingle that alongside other data which you are visualizing or doing BI on. So that's the way we look at it from an EPM standpoint. Ashish or Mike, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Just to add one more, right? Even though if you are querying a planning application, you are hitting an Essbase cube in the background. So of course, there is Essbase that is there. And again, for OAC, Essbase is another source. I mean, being part of OAC earlier, there are much stronger integrations. Things like you're able to build a cube in an OAC data flow as a target being Essbase. I did mention about how the hierarchical capabilities that are coming into OAC DV and Essbase sort of now integrates that and makes it much more compelling sort of hierarchical relationships that they can see in the BI visualization as such. So I think it's based on we come out with projects and then we work with the BI group to see how we can leverage those capabilities. So I think the synergies are all around there. Primarily from an OAC perspective, these are different sources that OAC supports. Customers have a choice to directly hit for operational reporting. Maybe they want to hit directly their planning cubes, or if they want to do more historical or analytical reporting, they would build an Essbase cube off of it and then leverage OAC or any other BI tool, right? To be able to do the reporting. So yeah.
Yeah, so I would say what's exciting for me coming from the Arbor days where we basically were bigger than what we were because of our partners, that being Essbase today, we're much more independent than we have been in the past. And we are rekindling some relationships with partners that have built front-end tools for Essbase again. So we are updating all of our relationships. Of course, OAC, FR, MR are our Oracle. We will prefer that customers use Oracle products, but we know that our customers use a wide variety of front ends in front of Essbase. And so we are actively updating those products with those vendors with 21C.
Are you allowed to mention any of them?
I don't know if I am. I've got Patrick and Ashish here. So.
I think there is. I mean, Edward knows about this. One of the key relationships that we are also working on is how Tableau integrates with Essbase. Yeah. So with the newer releases, that is something which is actively being worked upon. Again, driven by our partners, by our customers. So I think one thing I want to say is we talk about relationships, right? We want to maintain those relationships, get those inputs, and improve these products. But yeah, a lot of work going on from an integration standpoint.
Very good. So this question is more for the database gang, as it were, for Mike and Patrick and you, Ashish. We've got some amazing things happening with Autonomous Data Warehouse. I've been quite involved with the analytics and data Oracle user community, and looking at some of the things that they're achieving with machine learning and data mining. Are there plans to make that more seamless with being able to, for instance, extract results and directly import them, or have some sort of a seamless integration with the Essbase cloud instance, and well, Essbase at customer instances, whichever, the 21C onwards, I guess?
Yes, I mean that's very much the intention of bringing Essbase into the autonomous group, because we think there's a great opportunity for synergy there, not just expanding the customer base, but in what you're talking about, Roger, is technical integration. We think that there needs to be a seamless experience all the way through from data ingest to getting insights out of your data, and doing multidimensional analysis is a key part of that. So if possible, we'll do all sorts of, we have all sorts of plans to come.
That's brilliant. And Shankar, for you, we've got obviously we've had for a while, we've had if you like, crystal ball derivative for our prediction, and now auto predict. Is there a plan to include that sort of auto predict with freeform planning, and B, any sort of cross pollination with the if you like, with the database Essbase side of things?
Just on the so just to level set on the Freeform, right? So Freeform kind of broke a bunch of rules on the planning or the EPM platform side, because folks who know planning know that those 6 or 8 required dimensions are not required in Freeform. So essentially, you can build a cube just like Essbase with any dimensions you want. I mean, if you go back to the history of predictive planning, essentially it drives off of the scenario version dimensions. And planning grid generally has been dependent on that version dimension. So essentially, we have to rework on the predictive planning to make sure it is not dependent on scenario version year and period dimensions as a mandatory requirement. So that's really something we are working towards to make sure Freeform can be supported. So that's the same kind of challenges we are working through the approvals area on the Freeform to make sure approvals can be supported, so that approvals doesn't depend on the scenario version. So that's the piece. On the Essbase, we haven't really gone on that side on the roadmap to coordinate with the Essbase on the. We are doing stuff on the machine learning in general, but that's more holistic, goes beyond the Essbase. So I don't know if that answered your question there.
It certainly that will be interesting to the gang who've been asking me these things. I think obviously there's a degree of there's sandboxing already available in Essbase to some degree, and I just wondered if there was, if you like, some sort of enhancement that is in the plan for that, around the same sort of capability to predict out based on a linear or other simulation.
Yeah, I mean, we do have, like, just to summarize the simulation capabilities we have multicolor simulation, which works against strategic modeling. We have predictive planning, which used to work off of forms. Auto predict takes it to the next level, where it automates the whole process for time series based predictions. We are looking at ML based imports, where you can build off your PMML file in another data model in another data lake oriented area of your enterprise, and then bring that PMML file into EPM and then use that for your forecasting. So that's the path we are going on. We are also working towards insight definitions, where you can actually understand why your forecast variants are occurring, get some insight on that. So those are areas we are investing in as far as machine learning is concerned.
Great. So Ashish, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I mean, not an answer, but yeah, I'll just have to drop off as I have another call. But
as long as it wasn't something, as long as it wasn't something I said.
No, of course not. This is something on my calendar for so long, and I know we have Patrick and Mike here. Shankar is there as well, so I'm pretty sure they'll be able to address any questions that come up. But thank you so much for hosting me. Thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.
Appreciate you joining us, Ashish. Thank you. All right, so I did have another question, which I know has been asked before, but I'm going to pose it anyway, just because it is something people are interested in is when does someone decide to leverage freeform planning in the EPM suite versus using Essbase on our platform as a service offerings?
Okay, that's a common question. I think Ashish dropped off nicely. But I think I can, just to, Ashish and I, and even Karen, we have done a couple of sessions on this in Customer Connect and also with customers directly. So let me just reiterate what Ashish and I covered internally to our sales consultants, because this question comes up not just from customers, but also from our sales consultants also. So we are kind of consistent in our positioning. Essentially, if you think about it, Essbase SaaS Freeform is your only option, right? If you're deciding on going SaaS with Essbase across the board, because a lot of customers have EPM footprint extended to Essbase as a reporting cube, where the primary source of the data for those Essbase reporting cubes are from EPM. So if your user base and your data sources are from EPM, which means most of your users are EPM users, and your data is primarily coming from EPM, which means HFM or planning on-prem, and you are intending to go to SaaS, then it makes sense for you to keep all in SaaS with Freeform. So Freeform becomes a very viable option at that point because you have that hands-off administration. Your Essbase data for reporting is coming from EPM, and your users are primarily EPM. So there's no reason to have data move out of SaaS cloud elsewhere and have to deal with latency and data movement, which can really be challenging for maintenance purposes, right? So that's really our guiding principle from a planning. I mean, it's not just reporting, there's planning on Freeform too, essentially. So if you are moving Excel models in as a new customer or for new applications, then and you want to intend to move to SaaS, then Freeform becomes a viable option there too. And Freeform gives you the 2 decades of investment in EPM platform from a planning standpoint, especially, becomes immediately available because we can suck in those Essbase LCM files or OTL files directly. And then you're right there to start building your forms, you're building your all the reports and everything which we have invested in over 2 decades becomes immediately available. The web-based capabilities, especially the smart views, kind of, I think Essbase is a little ahead there. But I think the web-based capabilities for the end user standpoint is all available to you right away. So if those really matter to you, then I think Freeform becomes a viable option.
Yeah, Mike?
Yeah, so I'll give you the non-product manager answer from a development guy. To me, the difference is, Freeform is going to be a multidimensional application. It's part of the EPM platform. You're going to get all of the bells and whistles that EPM has in their platform. Calc Manager. It's a very structured environment, whereas Essbase Cloud is more of a multidimensional technology. I'll just call it a technology. So if you're interested in an out-of-the-box SaaS with guardrails around, they'll keep you safe. They won't let you do things that'll hurt you. If you're interested in that, then that's a perfect environment for Essbase. Okay. If you're looking for multidimensional technology to build upon, I would say the Essbase Cloud is pure, what I would call pure Essbase. It's a pure technology play, and the difference is control. To me, how much control do you want? Do you want no control? Do you want Oracle to manage your Essbase cubes? Then you'd go the SaaS route. If you want more control, if you want to scale up and scale down your processors and memory and manage your multidimensional environment yourself, then definitely pure Essbase is the way to go, in my opinion.
Hey, this is Essbase, or this is Edward. Well, that was a weird Freudian slip. I managed to be quiet for 34 minutes, which is a personal record for me. Glenn Schwartzberg and I are, question comes up so much lately. We're actually doing a session later today on Essbase 19C versus Freeform planning. And we are doing it basically as an episode of the TV show Cobra Kai. So Glenn and I run opposing Essbase dojos. and we have our 2 different schools of thought. So we will be expanding on this for 45 straight minutes to show kind of what the community and the customer world has been seeing.
Thank you. It's nice to hear your voice. So I mean, I guess from Mike's point, which he didn't say, and maybe it'll be borne out later, is that if you're a wuss, you use freeform planning.
I did not say that.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of freeform planning. Actually, I was at first very suspicious, but I do think it actually answers a lot of questions for us. So we do have a few questions coming up. One, I know it's been answered, but just to hear it on the airwaves, if I have EPM and I have Essbase Plus, can I build in my planning 11.2, can I build a standalone Essbase application? Yes or no? I know at the moment it has officially it's no, but I believe that is changing. Obviously, this is not a legally binding discussion, so please, but I'd love an answer to that if that's something that can be given.
Well, I mean, the answer at the moment is no, because EPM 11.2 does not include a license for Essbase Plus, and therefore you can't use it standalone under the terms of the EPM 11.2 license.
Right.
So I think just to add to that is, if you have an Essbase license, full use license, and you're using Essbase 11.2.4, you should be okay. But if you're using the EPM bundled 11.124, I think, Patrick, that's what probably you're referring to, the bundled version of Essbase 11.124. But if you have already a standalone Essbase 11.124 with an Essbase license, you should be okay with the 11.124. What we are doing is certifying the EPM version, because right now the challenge for customers is that the Essbase standalone version 11.124 is not certified to work with 11.2 EPM. So because we have already run through the testing for the 11.124 Essbase, which is bundled within EPM 11.2, we are in the process as we speak of certifying the 11.124 version of Essbase, which is bundled within 11.2, so that you can deploy that standalone. So that certification is coming in the near term, very soon. Hopefully that clarifies that.
Yeah, if I could add a non-Oracle stance on it. To be clear, it was always illegal if you only owned the Hyperion bundle side and didn't own Essbase Plus through its various methods. Like, you could own Essbase Plus, you could own Hyperion Plus edition that comes with Essbase Plus, you can own BI Foundation Suite, but you always had to have an Essbase standalone license to be able to create standalone Essbase cubes. So a lot of people are going like, well, why am I no longer allowed to do that? I'm like, you weren't actually allowed to do it ever. It's just a good thing the Oracle Audit Department didn't show up knocking at your door. I just piggybacking on what Patrick and Shankar just said. While it's not certified to run 11.124 and 11.2, I've technically played around with it, and it seems to work because it is 11.124 that is inside of 11.2, and it's not truly a brand new, completely different edition. It is essentially a slightly enhanced version of 11.124, but it is 11.124. So I think the big thing that's going to happen is they're going to officially certify that Essbase edition inside of 11.2, or certify 21C inside of 11.2. But when in doubt, consult your license agreement, because we're not here to violate that by any stretch of the imagination. And just be aware, if you do right now 11.124, because you own a license for it, and you do it inside of 11.2, you're essentially voiding your warranty. So if you do call tech support, because I've seen this, and you start asking questions about it, they're like, yeah, we didn't even know what you were doing is possible, so there's no way we can possibly help you do it. But I'm glad to hear from Shankar and Patrick that certification will be coming. #Safe Harbor.
Yes, #Safe Harbor. I do have a question which actually is moving off that. It is, we'll take you back a little bit, but it's from Glenn Hershen, and he says, we currently use Essbase Studio to build cubes and manage drill through. We drill into Oracle stored procedures, and I'm concerned that this feature will no longer work. Is this currently supported in OCI 19C? Is that a Mike question?
Yeah, so Studio is not a supported product in 19C or 21C. We have built into the platform SQL capabilities that are Studio-like. I'd have to check on the stored procedures, whether they're supported in the new way to set up and define your drill throughs. But definitely Studio is not supported with the latest versions of Essbase.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. That was a straightforward answer in some ways. Anonymous attendee. So this question is, it's just not sure if it's been asked since I stepped away, but how many freeform cubes can you create? Is it like Essbase where you can build as many as you can? Shankar, do you want to?
Yeah, I can take that. I think I was just typing in my answer, but I'll just probably answer it live. Essentially, yes, you can create as many. So Freeform is one database per application, which is one queue per app. Keeping with the Essbase best practice, because it's part of the enterprise queue, you can create as many applications as your business needs. So that's the statement now. We do have plans to support in the near term multiple cubes within a single application for Freeform as well, similar to the custom app types which we have already. That's something we are working towards. Now there's some nuances there. Obviously, you can't have, you need to have consistency across the outlines, across the cubes, because in the EPM side of things, dimensions are held at the application level. So consistency would be required. Otherwise, you're just having to deal with different cubes having different dimensionality all in the same application just for that sake. So in those where the dimensionality is different, separate applications make more sense. So to short answer to that question, one cube per application, you can create as many apps as you need to.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, so that, just to clarify, that means at the moment, just requesting an additional pod for each subsequent instance, subsequent database.
Yeah, that's right. And you do need to be careful because Essbase has active versus passive cubes, which customers typically version snapshot their cubes. So you don't need a pod for every passive snapshotted cube out there. You want to focus on the cubes which are active and being used. And so then there are other things which I cover. I don't want to go into the details, but the customer connect sessions which I've done cover the how do you handle those kind of scenarios.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing I've learned when in doubt with these things is to come and talk to you folk and get the answers directly. I found a lot of issues with listening to what's going around the rumor mill. Yeah, just thank you for being available to us and for putting up with our nagging questions and our frustrations sometimes. I know we've just got a few minutes left. We seem to have answered most of the questions. So I thought maybe we'd just go around the gang and see if there was anything you wanted to leave the audience with. Should we start with it?
Start again. I start actually by thanking you, Roger, and Edward, and all of you who put this conference together. I think this has been very good. One of the great pleasures I've gotten out of my interactions, now as part of the Essbase community, is just how strong these relationships are, not just between Oracle and our customers, but particularly through the partner community. It's extremely strong, and there's such passion here. It's not just something people do for a living. It almost feels like the Essbase community lives to do Essbase, and it's wonderful to see that such technology is so well cared for, and it speaks volumes for the good future we have ahead of us.
Oh, thank you, Patrick. I appreciate you being here today. Shankar?
Yeah, I think it's great to have this discussion, and I recommend people understanding more on the overall roadmaps to watch out for Customer Connect presentations, which we do. And as I said, Ashish and myself from a product management standpoint with Patrick's guidance and also with help from Mike and Karen, we have a consistent positioning between EPM and the Essbase team, and also from a BI standpoint. So I think people should feel confident that the roadmaps are clear from our standpoint, and we all work together, although it may not appear that the case from a sales view, from a sales standpoint, but or from listening to the competition. But the roadmaps are mutually discussed and agreed upon. So it's the same community which you guys have been used to from a Hyperion world, continuing to deliver the roadmaps for you.
Much appreciated, Shankar, and yeah, great sentiment. Thank you. Mike.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to leave everyone with something cool that we're working on. It's not on the roadmaps anywhere, but I just got a drop last week. So internally, we use Docker for a lot of our development, and there is a Docker for Essbase. If those folks are familiar with that technology, it's a container technology. I gave a preview to a colleague over on the EPM side, and he said it's the first time I've been able to run Essbase on my laptop in 15 years or whatever. So we are actively working on Docker. I know Tim Toe and the Applied OLAP guys use Docker a lot with their product development. So that's something interesting, that you'll be able to run a Docker container of Essbase on Mac or Windows laptops. Not sure the commercial side, but internally we're going to use the Docker for sure, and then we'll look at maybe releasing a Docker version of Essbase someday.
Mike, thank you, and we're particularly happy that you did join us today. It was great to see you come out from your development world. Appreciate it. And so really, I think we are at time. All that remains is for me to thank Sir Edward. I much appreciate you having me on board today, and yeah, looking forward to the rest of the conference.
Thank you to Roger for moderating this cast of characters. Thank you to the awesome speakers from Oracle for taking the time out of your day, crossing, I believe, every possible time zone on planet Earth. So the sun, it's doubtless in the middle of someone's night. So thank you for being here for us all and being here for the community. We have over 1,400 registrants and counting. We started the week with 1,200 and something, and as the word has gotten out even more, we're up to over 1,400. And as Patrick said, there is a passionate community out there about Essbase, and I hope that this panel helps everybody realize that what a certain competitor that rhymes with Shunstream has been saying about Essbase's death is completely incorrect. Essbase is not only has a great future, it's, in my opinion, the Essbase renaissance. Going back to what Mike was saying at the end, Essbase had become something that really requires some good server understanding and knowledge to go out there and install. And now with freeform planning, with Essbase on OCI, with an install that basically functions for you, with the possibility of Essbase on Docker, we've gotten to a world where anyone can deploy it, and it can go back into the hands of those business users. I'm extremely excited about it. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your conference. Talk to some of you later today.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.